Around the town with Taylor Brown, these fine specimens of men are here again for episode 10. We've even got Tim Cheeseman back. Tim, where have you been?
Chasing around all the footy.
Yeah? It's better than chasing around all the wild women you normally do. You've had a few broken bones?
Yeah, I broke my ankle and had a few surgeries on my back.
We'll have to tell the missus to stop bashing you, mate. Brendan Lindsay dressed up today as if he's in disguise. He looks like some kind of actor who's been on some kind of drugs charge or something for 6 months and gone into hibernation. Grown a beard, cap on, or we're missing his sunnies rather than glasses.
Yeah, they're out the back, brother. And I think you got the wrong Brendan there, mate. Not Brendan Lindsay.
Oh, no comment. And Taylor Brown, have you fixed your microphone this week? Because, geez, that was annoying last week.
Yeah, I fixed it, Lee. It's all done and dusted, mate. So just going to do it out loud until I get a proper microphone sorted, and we'll go from there.
No more dipping it in yogurt this week. Now, what is Taylor Brown going to go to town on this week?
I'm going to go to town on. I believe, Andrew Davey.
Oh, hello.
I tend to agree with James Graham and some of the comments he made today, with Andrew Davey sort of coming in over the top and criticising Cameron Ciraldo. He was there for 8 weeks, or 8 weeks of the year, and then he went back to Parramatta. And I just think that if you don't get along with the coach, you shouldn't go and then heap it on in the media, especially after the fact. I know he was probably asked and all those sorts of things, but you don't have to blame the coach, blame the culture, all those sorts of things. You can just sort of let it go. He's not the most experienced person when it comes to the Bulldogs. Yes, he was there for a short period of time, but I think waiting for the media to pile onto the Bulldogs and then joining on the back, I like Andrew Davey. I like his story. He's got a great story. He worked really hard. I played against him in the Host Plus Cup.
Did he bash you? Is that why you're having a go at him?
No, he didn't bash me.
Did he show you up? Did he step past you or? He
played for Mackay. They didn't win much, to be honest, but he played a bit for Townsville as well. But no, it's not about that. It's more, he's not necessarily an established person within the NRL, and he sort of waited for the Bulldogs to be at the bottom and kicking stones, and he just decided to throw one into the guts. And I don't really agree with it. I think it was poor. And even if he was poked and prodded, there were better ways out of it. He's quite an intelligent bloke, so there's other ways around that. And I feel he just didn't take the right tact or approach there.
Brendan, 2 questions to you. Number 1, does he deserve praise for speaking out? Number 2, are there going to be more people come out and say things?
I think I'm with Taylor a bit on this one. He was only there for 5 minutes. Good on him for being honest. I guess you could say that and putting his opinions, because 9 times out of 10, everyone just says the standard cliche after a game or whatever it is. But I think his tact could have been a bit better in regards to it. I think there probably will be more, but that mightn't be a reflection on Ciraldo and the Bulldogs. That might be a reflection on what's happened in the past and what's been there. And I think it's similar to the Tigers and these bad teams, like these clubs that seem to, I won't say bad, but seem to
they're not good.
Have a bit of trouble. Is leaks are coming? There's more leaks in that than a holy ship, But I'm actually probably. I think there's a point where just because you don't get on with the coach doesn't mean it's a bad club. It could be just personalities. And saying that I've looked at 2 coaches, it's like Selwyn Cobbo coming out last year saying Kevin Walder's current coach. He'd only been coached by one person, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't exactly say Manly's culture last year was fantastic, and then Parramatta's had a good run at last year, but he wasn't there. So, yeah.
Before I come back to you, Tim, I'm going to ask both of you, Taylor and Brendan, and Taylor, you probably jump in first. Was it actually that bad what he said? And secondly, he left the Bulldogs to go to a club that finished higher in the ladder. So any criticism of him not being in the Bulldog side, is that not nullified by him playing more games for a team higher in the ladder?
Not. I don't think it's nullified by that at all, and I don't think it's about where he went or where he ended up. You know what I mean? I don't think it's about that. I just think that he sort of left. It wasn't major news when Andrew Davey left the Bulldogs and went to the Eels. It wasn't a big thing.
I can't even remember when it was. That's how major it wasn't. When was it?
It was this year after 8 rounds.
Yeah, and Parramatta had that back row crisis where Lane was out and all the
And when did he join?
Round 9.
And
when did he join the Bulldogs?
This year, like in the off season. So he finished up at Manly and started in this year.
So he'd only been there for a little bit. He obviously didn't have a great experience. He found the back door when he could, when an option came up that would take him. And then the moment the Bulldogs have some problems in-house, he provides an input. And that's, I don't know. I just don't think he handled it the right way. I just think that...
Was it that bad what he said?
I don't think it was that. It's not about what he said. It was when he said it, Lee.
Yeah.
It was when he said it. There was nothing about Andrew. Maybe he was saying it when he left and it just wasn't news. But it was when he said it. If you were in the press for doing something wrong and then I come out and said, well, actually, I didn't really get along with Lee for this. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily what somebody said. It's when they said it, and it's piling onto the heat.
Yeah,
it's easy then. It's easy.
I actually, and this is probably unusual, agreeing with Taylor on that. I think if he come out and said the exact same words a month after he left, and I think round 8, I think the Bulldogs were doing pretty good at that stage.
So I've got the words that have been attributed to him here. Tim, I'll bring you in at this point. These two blokes won't shut up. The way the Bulldogs went about things, I didn't like it. So, quote, the way Bulldogs went about things, I didn't like it. It wasn't a culture that I fitted in with, and it wasn't the style of coaching that I resonated with. Players had concerns, but they weren't at panic stations. I had a couple of gripes, but I won't go into specifics. We weren't all pulling the same way. It just wasn't my cup of tea, and a lot different, to what I've experienced at Manly and Parramatta, close quotes. Tim, over to you. Firstly, he's mentioned Manly and Parramatta, two clubs that finished higher than the Bulldogs and have done consistently over the last 5 years, I'd say.
Yeah, he's entitled to his opinion, but I don't think he says anything that hasn't already been said in any of the articles. Like, everyone knows that at the moment at the Bulldogs, there's a problem, and there has been a problem since the start of the year.
I think there's been a problem for a decade.
Yeah, but under Ciraldo, this is what everyone's up in arms about. Is it because it's Ciraldo? But since the very start of the season, Bulldogs haven't looked good at all. Yes, they've had a couple of really good names in that, but in their halves, they haven't been organised or anything. The forwards aren't going forward. There's been a problem since the start of the year. And I don't know if it's too much. There was so much hype with Ciraldo going there and the expectations that he was going to win the next comp. But I think it's everyone who's actually signed with the Bulldogs, they've all struggled.
I'll start with you on this next question, Tim, and then go to the other boys, and therefore I'll be going around the town, Taylor Brown. How much of this is Gussie's fault? So, Tavita Pangai Jr. came at the start of the year, didn't finish the season. Davey came at the start of this season, didn't finish the season.
Fine. Jackson DePine is not around.
Yeah, the captain has been missing in action since he went to someone and expressed concerns about what was going on.
It's 4.
I mean, are the Bulldogs getting something seriously wrong here, Tim?
I think they are. And I don't know if it's Gus's fault or Ciraldo's fault. But the other thing is that neither one of those, they have actually taken responsibility for how this season has ended up, where everything's been thrown back onto the players. Ciraldo, with that text message, was blaming the players and everything like that. being a coach, you've got to understand that and be able to relate to your players and be able to talk to your players. And if they've got a problem, then try and work it out.
Tim,
Tim,
your T-shirt, is that designed around the neck or have you been out running? And is it sweat?
No. I got back from the gym.
So you got sweat around your neck? I thought it was like a unique design.
No. It's just a black.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to clear that up. Sorry, it must be me ADHD or something kicking in. Rosie, is this a case of short-term pain, long-term gain at the Bulldogs? Are the Bulldogs going about things in the right way by kicking some arse at training and weeding out the soft people?
Yeah, they need to weed out people that don't fit into the system. But they've recruited followers. They talked about
what, like on Instagram?
No. They've recruited people that are very good players, but they're followers. I wouldn't say Kikau's a leader. I wouldn't say Tuangai Jr. is a leader.
So what you're suggesting then is that Gus hasn't done enough homework on some of the players that he's got across.
No, you look at the Broncos. They brought in Reynolds. Reynolds is a leader, and he brought those young kids through. You look at Cronulla. Cronulla brought in Dale Finucane. And Dale Finucane, the coach can set whatever standards he wants, but it's driven through the player group. And his leaders at the moment are like 23, 24, and prior to them being at the Bulldogs, like you'd probably say, what's the 5'8's name gone blank? Reed Marnie. They don't know how to set, like they probably know, but they're still developing as players and as people. They need an old head. And Wayne Bennett did it with the Bromwich brothers. You need someone to set those standards within the playing group, or the coaching staff will be fighting with the playing group for the rest of the time.
Taylor, you've heard the boys pontificate, so you've had plenty of time to plan your final analysis now. Where do you sit with the whole Gus line of recruitment and I suppose the whole we are the Bulldogs, this is what we do, Bulldogs DNA, blah, 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 blah.
Well, there's no evidence that the Bulldogs are even doing that, Lee. It was a punishment for someone who was late to training. Like, yeah, maybe they're enforcing their punishments and sticking by it, but there's certainly no indication that they've upped training or done anything like that. And Ciraldo is right. If it's a punishment and they're whinging about a punishment, then maybe they do need to change their DNA. Maybe it's even more reason that when there's a punishment to double down on it. You need to have a set of rules for everyone to follow. Need to have a set of rules. Even Wayne Bennett, and being late to training is one of the most cardinal sins in a football team. Wayne Bennett was quoted saying last year, there's only two things I won't allow you to do if you're in my football side. One, don't be late, because it insinuates that your time's better than everyone else's and you think you're better than us. So don't be late. Two, try to
You're late for this podcast all the time.
Yeah, I know that.
Because his time's more important than yours.
You're no Wayne Bennett.
What?
I read somewhere today Braden Burns turned up to training late and then they were going to offer him a punishment and he said, no, it's wrestle day. I'm doing wrestling. And he did.
Taylor, I'm going to make you wrestle Tim Cheeseman, Brendan, James Barley, and Chris Bugden.
You know what's unfortunate? I didn't even get to the punchline of my Wayne Bennett theory, but you had to butt in. And that's
Rosie butted in. Rosie butted in, not me.
That's the second time you've done it, because you did it to Tim Cheeseman when he was too busy talking, and you wanted to know if he was sweating or it was some sort of ornament around his neck.
Sorry, you know what? I just had a bit of a kip this afternoon, so I'm a bit more energetic and sharp in the mind than I normally am. So,
well, let's just no more.
You know when you fall asleep in the afternoon and you wake up scared, like, oh.
No, we're working.
No,
we're at work.
Oh, where you work, you probably fall asleep scared, Rosie.
You were going to sleep with one eye open.
That's how I grew up. Sorry, Taylor, for interrupting.
That's fine, mate.
So's not.
Yeah, it's gone now. And you know what? It was perfect because I was saying being late is a cardinal sin. So if anything needs to be punished, that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that they're doing some extra crazy training regime, but you still have to stick to your standards regardless.
Okay. The next club I want to talk about, and I feel like a stuck record here, but I'm going back to Souths again, right, Taylor?
Yeah.
Because I know we talked about them last week, and I think we talked about them the week before, but what's becoming abundantly clear to me now is that 2 years ago, getting rid of Adam Reynolds and not giving him a longer contract, as was reported in the newspapers, doesn't mean it's true, but that's probably about right. And back in the half that they did, and I know they've got other things wrong with them, a paper-thin defence, predictable attack, can be ill-disciplined. But if there's one recruitment decision that looks like a ridiculous one, looks like they were thinking about it too much, surely it's the decision to let Reynolds go to the Broncos and try and bring Ilias through when they did. Because look at the trajectory of the Broncos in that 2 years and look at the trajectory of Souths in that 2 years.
Yeah, but Lee, you got to remember I remember having sitting on a podcast with you talking about how well Lachlan Ilias is going and how it seems like getting rid of Adam Reynolds might have been a good idea if they knew they
You said that.
Sorry?
You said that. I didn't.
Well, it's certainly been discussed on podcasts that you and I have been. I mean,
if we want to go to your tipping record and use that as a example of what your tipping is normally like.
This is the second time you've done it. I'm making a valid point and you've just redirected. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, I'm just in one of them moods, lad.
Yeah, but you're supposed to host. You're supposed to steer conversation.
Sorry.
Not redirect it where you want.
Sorry.
This is fair dinkum.
Fair dinkum, mate.
Well, just, it's crazy.
Sorry.
Absolute madness. But
I'll put my finger on my lips.
Yeah, please. And hand up next time you want to talk.
Okay.
I don't think the Ilias situation is the worst thing they have. I think Lachlan Ilias, yes, it was a decision to invest in the future. Could they have offered Reynolds another year contract? Maybe, but he didn't want that. He wanted multi-year deals, if you remember. So look, the Rabbitohs may have been happy to give him 1 more year, maybe another 2 more years, but they weren't going to sacrifice their future with Ilias for Reynolds. I actually don't mind the decision. I still stand by the fact I don't mind the decision. I just believe that there's other things obviously going wrong within the club that have caused this decline, and you need to start looking at the last 10 to 12 weeks in particular and what's happened there, because at the start of the year, their attack was electrifying. There was nothing predictable about it at all. This is not a problem that's arisen over, this is corroded, this is corroded. This is just something that's just snapped and turned their season on its head. So that question can only be answered honestly from within the club.
Tim,
I believe.
Tim, while I was talking, Tim, my friend, you were nodding your head.
Yep.
Do you believe they made a big Horlicks? Horlicks is a drink you can get in England. I don't know if you can get it over here. Of this recruitment decision.
Adam Reynolds he's always been a really good leader and great general on the field. Ilias, maybe 12 more months under him, and it would have been fantastic. Now, Ilias has been playing some good football. I think South started to really crumble around Origin time when Latrell was injured. Their attack, it went back to basically what it was last year. It's been predictable. It's like as soon as they lost Latrell and then Graham with his sternum, he hasn't been playing his best football. Some of those guys, their forward pack hasn't been as strong because they've either been injured or players out. They just fell back into what they knew instead of what they've been training all preseason for. And at the start of the year, I had them winning the comp, definitely, because of their attack. You couldn't predict which side they were going to go or who was going to get the ball. But ever since Origin, it's like they've just gone, okay, no worries. We know what works for us and we'll try that. But they haven't been able to get out of that. Ilias, he's doing the best he can. He's a young half. He's still learning, but he's doing a pretty damn good job.
Can I just say, Taylor, you had a go at me about interrupting Tim.
Yeah.
He does have long, pregnant pauses between his sentences and paragraphs, which give the impression that he's finished. Thank you.
Did you
Brenda,
listen to Tim? Or the whole time you're thinking of ways you can try and justify things you do in the middle of podcasts? So it's just self-evident. It's just leave that. You didn't listen to the man.
Rosie, I don't want to talk to you about that. Okay. What I want to do
anyway.
right now is talk about your finals tipping last week. So your top 8 tipping.
Roll it
In
on.
third place. So 3 people participated in last week's competition. And in third place out of 3 was the man who this podcast is named after, Taylor Brown. You got 1 right, that the Knights would finish 5th. Well done. Rosie, you were level with Chris Bugden at the top of the ladder. With 3, you predicted that the Sharks, Raiders, and Knights would finish where they did. And Chris, absent tonight, got the first 2 right. He was the only one out of all of you to say Penrith would win the minor premiership and the Donkeys would finish 2nd. And like all of you, he got the Knights in 5th. Now, what we're going to do now, boys, is we're going to plot the finals all the way to the grand final. Okay? So, as you know, I like to put you under pressure. So, why not start by planning all the way on a Monday before the squads are even picked? How good's that? Okay. So, this weekend, we have Penrith versus the Warriors on Friday. We have the Knights versus the Raiders on Saturday. That's elimination. Also, Cronulla and the Roosters is also elimination. And then I've got these days wrong. But anyway, Broncos and Storm are playing as well because I'm looking at a different graphic. Anyway, so ignore the days I said, right? Panthers and Warriors, the winners, please. TB.
I think Penrith, round 1 of the finals.
Tim?
I'm going a big upset, the Warriors.
Up the Waz.
What about Taylor? They're my team. I'm cheering them home. And then first game is even just... Rosie.
I'm cheering them home.
Don't interrupt me. I just started. Rosie?
Turn it up.
I think Panthers, but I think it'll be closer than everyone thinks.
Panthers. Okay. Right. Next game. On this thing anyway. Knights and the Raiders. Taylor?
Knights.
Are you all the Knights?
Knights.
Is Ponga good?
Yep.
Yes, Ponga good. He's okay.
No, but I mean his shoulder.
Oh, I still think they can do it without him.
Yeah, I think you're right, the Knights, because it's at Newcastle. Yep.
It's at where?
Newcastle.
Where?
Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Oh.
Come on, mate. You got to get in the spirit. They're going nuts down there.
Sorry, everyone, about that.
Oh,
Sharks and Roosters, Taylor.
If anyone, you're kidding, right? I think the Roosters beat. Oh, Jesus.
At Shark Park.
Yeah, I still say the Roosters.
I'm going the Roosters too.
I'm going the Sharks.
Okay. And then Broncos versus Storm.
Broncos.
Your microphone's gone funny again.
I don't have a microphone. Broncos.
There it goes. Fine now.
Yep. Broncos.
Yeah, Broncos. Break the hoodoo.
Okay, so Taylor, based on what you've said, this is where the podcast will become really boring while I try and quickly work out who plays who. Based on what you've said, the week after, the Warriors are going to play the Knights.
Up the Waz.
Okay. And the Chucks are going to play the Storm.
The Storm.
Roosters, Storm. Okay. Something's going on with your mic again, which suggests to me it's your computer, not your microphones that you're using. You've got the Warriors to win this weekend, Tim.
Yep.
So that means Penrith will go through to play the Raiders. Who have you got there?
Oh, Penrith.
No. The Penrith will be playing the Knights.
I'm going to go to Knights.
Yeah, Penrith Knights. Yeah, that's what I meant. So who's going to win that?
Knights.
Whoa. Do you remember last year he was doing random tips and he managed to jag one? And then you got the Broncos going through, so that means the Storm are still in. And then the Roosters beating the Sharks, so Roosters Storm.
I'm going to go the Storm for that.
Rosie, Warriors playing against Knights.
Warriors.
And Sharks playing against Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Okay, back to you, TB. So the Warriors have won through, and I assume on that basis they will then play the Broncos. Warriors versus Broncos.
This will be an extremely tight game, and it's a coin toss. I'm going to say Wars just because I'm really backing them in the finals. Like I'm behind them, 100%.
And Storm versus Penrith.
That will also be an absolute cracking game. And it's a toss up to see who wins that one. But I think honestly, probably the Storm.
Okay. Tim Cheeseman, you've got the Knights beating Penrith, which means they will face the Warriors.
Warriors.
Oh, no, wrong side of the draw. I told you I'd mess this up.
Yeah.
They will play who?
No, the Knights play the Warriors.
No, they'll play the Storm.
The Knights.
Oh, no, they'll play the Broncos. Knights and Broncos.
Broncos.
Yeah. And the other game, that will be the Storm versus the Warriors.
Warriors.
That's over in New Zealand, eh?
Yep.
Okay. Rosie, you've got the... I've got this wrong, I think. Because who did you say would win out of the Penrith and Warriors the first week? You said Penrith, didn't you?
Penrith, yeah.
All right. So Penrith will be playing against, in your eyes, Melbourne.
Yeah.
Who's winning that?
Penrith.
And then in the other half of the draw, the Broncos, sorry.
Yeah.
The Storm.
No, the Broncos.
Oh, yeah. The Broncos will be playing against
the Warriors.
The Warriors.
Yeah, and the Brisbane will win that.
Okay. So both Tim and Rosie, you both agree that Broncos and Warriors will be in the final. Tim, Taylor.
I got Penrith Broncos.
That's what I said. Penrith Broncos.
Okay.
I didn't. I got it wrong. So I told you I'd get it wrong. Penrith and Broncos in the final for you, Rosie. Warriors and Broncos in the final for you, Tim. And Taylor, Warriors and Storm. Who's winning the GF? TB?
What?
You always vote from the heart, don't you?
100%, yeah.
Broncos, Warriors, who's winning, Tim?
I think the Broncos in a tight one.
What about how the Oracle just took time then with his answer, just consulted his...
It's going to be interesting.
Chakras.
This final series is going to be really interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, Lee says I vote with my heart, but it could very well happen like that.
Oh, yeah.
Rosie, Penrith and Broncos.
I'm voting my heart here, Broncos. It's going to be a split household.
I know. I'm going to put this in my diary for next week so we can check where yous are at and abuse Taylor for being rubbish again. So I'll put that in there for next week.
I'm not sure if anyone outside the four can win it.
If anyone can, it's the Knights, but even then it's going to be very uphill.
Yeah, I don't think the Knights have a decent halves to win the comp. Yeah.
On the subject still of tipping, and we won't go on for this for too long because, as usual, I've got great fun to have with you. Last week, Taylor, your finals predictions in the Queensland Host Plus Cup. We had 2 matches to predict, and you had a grand total of 50% record. Now, that is probably your best of the year. So, boys, if we can just give him a clap, that's probably his best tipping, 50%. Well done. Two games to predict. Well done.
Hey, have we got a classification?
What, as in like
PG?
If you swear or whatever, tell me to
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have like a...
It's past 9 o'clock, so I think we're at the M rating.
Yeah, okay.
The thing is, Taylor, if you've not got enough vocabulary, I'll try to say it again, vocabulary to think about something to say apart from the word fuck, surely you need to have a look at it.
I do, Lee, but sometimes I think when you're dealing with men that have high vocabularies, some of the best insults are just short and sharp. Like, if I just, you were mid-talking, doing something, I just went, get effed. That's great.
Get effed.
Yeah, I'm
get effed.
Because I know you swore, but I'm still staying at a higher echelon here. I'm still operating on higher vibrations. And
what about Taylor got the same glasses as me, boys?
Twins.
Hero. Lee Addison. Right.
Hey, wait a tick. Taylor, what's up with Dean Mariner?
Who's Dean Mariner?
What do you mean?
Did he play? He didn't play for the Bronx, and I didn't see him for the Manly.
Yeah, it must be some sort of... I don't believe he played for Wynnum either.
No, I didn't see him play because I only saw the highlights. And everyone scored a try. So I would have assumed he'd score one because I think it was like 36, 34 or something.
It was a very high-scoring semi-final. It was extremely high-scoring semi-final, if I'm being honest. 24-30. It's almost a cricket score in Host Plus Cup. But yeah, look, I'm not quite sure what's going on with Dean Mariner. I'm not sure. There might be an injury there.
Could be anything. I mean, what we take for granted as supporters, as followers, and whatever else, we think that every single player, the world revolves around their rugby league life. Yeah. There could be absolute anything that gets in the way. So it could be anything.
He's only a kid.
He's only a kid. He's a fair player too. So, the Broncos will need more of him when Herbie goes. So, anyway.
Yeah, because I don't think Jesse Arthurs is going to fill that centre position based on last week.
Yeah, well, wasn't that an interesting game between the Broncos and the Storm? It was basically a Host Plus Cup match.
The difference was a bit of class from Melbourne, I thought. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rosie, thanks for stepping in as host there for 5 minutes, but let me regain control of the schmozzle of a podcast.
Rosie, I thought you did well, and if my relationship with Lee keeps deteriorating, expect a phone call.
It's actually your podcast. You can sack me.
That's what I just said. If you listen carefully, I just threatened that just then.
I know. All right, no, Taylor, let's be serious now, eh?
I was serious the whole time, but
anyway. The downside for the Host Plus Cup last week of Kevy filling his team full of Host Plus Cup players was what it did to the Host Plus Cup. I'm going to see how many times I can get the word Host Plus Cup in one sentence too.
I think it hurt. I think it hurt the Melbourne side more than the Broncos side of things, because
you just hurt Taylor interrupting him. He was going to give me an answer and you just chipped in.
Yeah.
I agree, Rosie. Yeah, good point. If you want to just continue with it.
Oh no, I just said like the game between Wynnum and South was good because both of them had similar numbers out. So it was sort of like real Queensland Cup players. But you looked at the Capras and they were a class above than the Sunny Coast.
Yeah, Milford, Edric Lee, Brenko Lee. They have some Kurt Donohoe. They have some really good players that come from the Dolphins, the Capras, and it certainly helped them on the weekend having a host of players like that. The experience that the Sunshine Coast were missing, and I think probably hurt that the Capras had them in key positions, and Sunshine Coast lost Luke Polselli, their captain, who was out with a head knock, Jaden Nikarima, who was out, Sualavi Farlongo, who was out playing NRL. So they literally lost their spine.
Has it?
Gone.
Yeah.
So, whereas Wynnum didn't lose their spine completely, Souths didn't lose their spine completely. So there were players there that, so it definitely hurt the Falcons more. But that's feeder club life. That is what it is. You don't avoid that in our current system. The only way you could really do it is if you were in actually, this would be interesting because I don't know the answer. And you, Brendan and Lee, may know the answer. When Man City and Man United have players on their roster, if they're not playing, who do they play for?
No one.
The reserves. No one. Yeah.
So
what happens quite a lot in the Premier League, particularly with rich teams, who, if they've got players who are young, so what Man City are very good at is they'll stockpile young players and they actually send them out on loan for a year to other clubs. And obviously they have the option of calling them back whenever they want. But yeah, to be honest, they don't play. And the other thing is you have big, long, extended substitutes bench in the Premier League and in the European competitions and every competition, actually. And because there's that many games, they tend to all get quite a few games at some point. So it's not quite an apple and an apple.
Well, that's what I was saying. In our current system, you can't avoid it. You can't avoid that scenario that happened over the weekend in the Host Boss Cup. But in the relegation and promotion system, you can, because you do what they do and you hold the large squad and you loan out where you need to.
I'm going to come up with a radical proposal.
You are right now?
Mm.
Well, I'm married, so it can't be me.
What about the state leagues became a midweek comp?
I think you brought this up before. Isn't that what they do in England?
No, I've never brought this up.
Oh, no. I thought.
So imagine they're played on a Tuesday and a Wednesday night, because then in theory, the kind of thing that happened at the weekend wouldn't necessarily cause too much harm, because in theory, Souths could have played half their team for half a game or something, and then they could have played for the Broncos. I know Thursday games make things tricky, but...
Well, then what would they just do, a captain's run and play again?
Well, I've got a question coming up soon about the Rugby Union World Cup, right? And the Rugby Union World Cup's going on for weeks, and it's the same as the Rugby League World Cup in that we space the games out one a week. So I'm asking the question, because of the physical demands of the sport now, can we not play 2 games a week, or
they already bitch
2/3 and a quarter of a game, or
they already bitch and complain about a 5-day turnaround, and you still got half the guys that aren't professionals.
That's the problem. You got if you wanted to do a Tuesday night competition, what are you going to do with all the Host Boss Cup boys that have to work? And now, the ones that live in Mackay or Gladstone or Rockhampton or Cairns, you're now travelling on a Tuesday to play Tuesday night to then leave on a Wednesday to get home Wednesday midday. You've missed 2 whole days of working for the Host Boss Cup. Now, you can do it. You could do it, but you'd have to pay the players more. Because then all you'd get is young people that really want to make it. You wouldn't get anyone that's a bit older or experienced, because they'd have jobs, they'd have serious jobs, they'd have families. So,
and based on the fact that they've got rid of the Colts competition, wouldn't that be a good thing?
What, to put more money into the Host Boss Cup?
You just said your words were that more young people would chase the dream, because older players would be. I'm paraphrasing you here, but experienced players who are working and whatnot wouldn't be able to necessarily.
I think he got the wrong way around, Lee. I think of anyone who's not going to be able to play the midweek games are the younger guys, because they're trying to establish themselves in their non-rugby league career.
It depends on what they're doing, though. Depends on what they're doing.
Brosy, a lot of them aren't, mate.
Wouldn't they be doing a trade?
Yeah, some of them are, but a lot of them would put that down in the beat of a heart if they had to.
Yeah.
In the flutter of a butterfly wing. All these players choose rugby league, every single one of them. They wouldn't be there if they didn't, mate. And that's just how it is. It's not good, because they do put the rest of their lives on hold, but that's one of the sacrifices they make. You talk to anyone that's played semi-professional rugby league or anything like that, and you say, when did you get married? And you'd almost put your house on it. Then every single one of them said somewhere between October and November, because they literally do everything in their life according to the rugby league calendar. And if you think they wouldn't change careers or change jobs or something to do a trade where they would be more accepting of that, you're wrong. They would do that in a heartbeat.
Well, the only way to get this to work, if they're going to, with the feeder system we've got, is for them to start their finals the same week as the NRL starts their finals, and they don't, and their final series goes for 1 week less. So therefore, at all times, the only benefit it's going to be to the clubs like the Titans who've dropped out, your Redcliffe who's dropped out, so they've got more players to pick from. But at the end of the day, the finals are on, and the Broncos are going to pick their best team. The Storm's going to pick their best team. So the players playing for them would have been the same players every week because the best players are playing.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to do it is to do it where their final series starts, like the New South Wales Cup. I believe that starts this week, but they've got 1 week less.
Yep, I see what you're saying. It's a valid point.
Because then it's the same way all year. Because at the end of the day, they're only getting the players that aren't playing the NRL, and the NRL are picking the best 17. It's only in the last couple of rounds and during Origin that the best 17 is not picked.
Yep. I like it, Rosie.
Unless a team's trying to tank, but there's no draft, so there's no point tanking. So
You're dwelling on it too much. You've made a great decision, corporate decision. Bang the mallet. Let's get out of here. Next issue.
Okay.
Cool.
When you two stop bickering.
Oh, sorry.
We agree with each other. See, that's how much you don't listen. You were just waiting for time to interject.
We've actually been agreeing with each other all night.
Taylor, Tim and Brendan, I'm going to ask you to be silent for a few minutes while we hear these great tips from Taylor for the Host Plus Cup here in Queensland. On Saturday, a game I believe my good friend, my learned friend Taylor Brown will be commentating on. The Bears will play the winning Manly Seagulls first versus sixth. And as we know, TB has supported Wynnum to win the comp for ages, even though they finished in sixth. So now they're playing the minor premiers who flogged the last team they played. So, Taylor, what's your tip for Saturday?
I think this is going to be a very tight battle. But if Burleigh Bears play the way they did in the second half against the Capras, I don't think there's another team in the competition that can beat them. They were electrifying. They were strong through the middle. They had a really good kicking game with Guy Hamilton. If the Bears play like that, they'll beat Wynnum and they'll win the comp.
So the Bears are winning?
I believe so, yes.
Will they get any extra players from the Titans now?
The beautiful thing about the Bears is they don't rely on them.
All right, cool.
They have a really good core of players that are full time with them. A really senior group of players. They've got a really good mix in there from old heads to newer players, and I commentated the Burleigh under 21s game, the Hastings Deering Cops competition, and I was down there at Burleigh. And they were playing against Redcliffe, and there wasn't too many people in the stands, families and all that sort of stuff. But the whole Burleigh Bears Host Plus Cup squad was there. They all had a feed in the club together, and then they sat in the hill and watched together.
They've been doing that for years.
And I thought, just to be, this is their week off before a grand final qualifier. Been a long season, and they're all there. Their wives were there. Their kids were there. They're all together at the club, and I thought, there's something special about this group, and they've been successful for a while. So, I think Burleigh.
Tim, my friend, I just want to thank you for following my edict to be silent throughout this process.
That's
Taylor,
that's a shot.
Taylor, not you, Rosie. Taylor, the Tigers in third play against the Capras in fourth in another game that I think you're commentating on Sunday.
Yes. Back to back this weekend.
The Taylor Brown Show.
I probably shouldn't be tipping because I'm commentating these games.
Well, as long as you don't tell anyone about the bets you're putting on it, sports bet, it's fine. With the insider knowledge you've got, it's fine.
This is a good way to get cancelled real quick. It's something I haven't even done.
Yes.
Look, I think this one's going to be a really tight one. And I would like to reserve my pick if I can. I'd like to.
No.
This is going to be really, really tight as well. I'm leaning towards the Tigers, but I've written off the Capras several weeks now, and they've come back to bite me. So,
okay, the Bears and Tigers are going to play the grand final in a week, so that probably means the Capras are playing the Seagulls, right? Okay, as you know, at the end of any podcast I host, I like to talk about what
they don't play for third, mate.
Well, he's saying you can't get your tips right. That's what he's trying to get.
Yeah, listen, Taylor. Were you not listening? Right? Now, as you know, at the end of every podcast I host, I like to talk about anything that isn't anything to do with rugby league. Now, I've got 2 topics today, and I'm sure they will create fantastic discussion. And Tim, because you've been left out of the conversation, because you're not rude like Brendan, I'm going to ask you first. Number 1, do you like rugby union? Number 2, are you going to be watching the Rugby Union World Cup? So they're the first question, them 2.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Love the game.
Yep.
That's where a majority of my background is union.
Yep.
I'll be interested to see a number of the countries on how well they do and how unsuccessful some of the major countries will be ending up. I see a lot of very mismatched games and other games that'll just be some of the larger nations will be blown out of the water by some of the less popular ones. I can see New Zealand getting beaten, Australia getting flogged, unfortunately. I can see Wales having a couple of good games, but also maybe losing 1 or 2. England the same.
Yeah. Now we're going to call you throughout the duration of the Rugby Union World Cup because you're such a rugby union man. We're going to give you a double barrel surname. I think Tim Chalmers Cheeseman could be a very good name for you.
The old hyphenated last name.
Yeah.
Old 2 dads.
Brendan? Any chance you just answer it quickly rather than giving the full preview of the World Cup like Tim just did, please? Here on the Rugby Union podcast.
Probably bits and pieces of it. It's nah.
You sound dead excited about it too.
Oh no, I'll be honest. It's not great watching Australia get flogged. I think we might.
Yeah, it is. Taylor?
I really want to make an effort to watch it, but the timing of the matches is really going to affect me.
What, like 5 a.m.?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather watch Premier League.
What happened to this? Oh, I'm going to the gym every morning, blah, blah, blah. Just watch it while you're on a treadmill, Taylor, or something.
I never said I was going to the gym every morning.
I've got to troll through the archives of this podcast and the Rugby League Coach podcast about you going on, banging on about the new you.
You put your gumboots on, lad, and go trawling. You won't find it. You won't find it.
Taylor, did you piss in his drink or something this weekend?
I will be.
2 swear words in this pod.
The next time I see him, I will be, and I'll remind him who the real boss around here is.
If the game's on at 5 o'clock, I'll probably watch one each day.
If I may.
Sorry.
Yeah. John Farnham's The Voice song, You're the Voice, try and understand it. That one.
I think we know it.
Has been
Your time,
used by the Yes campaign in their campaign, right? So this question isn't about politics. It is pertaining to theme tunes, be it for sport, any kind of sport. Obviously, if rugby league's on your mind, that's fine, even though we're trying to steer away from rugby league. But the question is the best theme songs for anything ever. Might be a film, might be a theatre show, I don't know, whatever. Taylor, I'm not going to start with you. I'm going to start with Brendan.
James Bond. The James Bond theme. That starts all the movies.
Dun, 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 dun. That one.
Yeah. And it sets the scene all the way through. When you hear that music, you know something's going to happen.
Yeah. Tim?
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you mean the soundtrack?
Yeah.
Taylor?
Start of every single one of them.
Which one's your favourite? Which one, though? The songs, I mean, not the...
That initial credits.
Okay, I'm trying to think how that goes.
You know where that rolling...
I prefer... I used to think that every
The Dark Side.
I used to think that every time Rosie's ex-missus used to walk in the room. Taylor.
Well,
Rosie, stay on your seat.
Probably.
Oh, great.
The two.
Sorry, Taylor, this podcast will probably get cancelled.
We're going into defamation.
Oh.
What do you bet, Taylor?
I hope they don't use this podcast as a character reference because you've been a terrible bloke. You've been a terrible bloke this whole podcast, Lee.
You've been really good boy too, haven't you? Like you've been watching your P's and Q's and everything.
Yeah. I'm going to go the 2000 Olympics, Nikki Webster Strawberry Kisses.
I don't know that one.
Sing that.
Somebody give me a
The
rendition.
Matildas used it as well.
Did they?
Yep.
How does it go?
I've been missing your strawberry kisses. Something so sweet that drives me crazy. You know that one?
Do you know what Lee's favourite one is?
What?
It's the Cup of Life, sung by at the Soccer World Cup by
By who?
what's his name?
Go on Google again like you did last week when you cheated.
Well,
He cheated last week. When he made a great run. Right, we need to do better, boys, because what you've all done then, you've gone soundtracks. What I want you to do is think about a theme tune. So, what
about Come On England?
Oh, there's been a few good ones. So,
Or simply the
I'll
best?
give you the full rundown. 1996, we had World Cup Willie. It goes, he's dressed in red, white, and blue. It's World Cup Willie. We all love him too. It's World Cup Willie. He's as strong as a lion and never will give up. That's why Willie is favourite for the cup.
Is this why? Did you think of this because of Ange Postecoglou? Is this
So what other sports ones can you think of?
Tina Turner, Simply the Best was good.
Yes.
And the other one was Come On England. Come On England. That soccer.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
The one I remember is from the 2003 World Cup in Australia. And the Wales team taught me a song was, after England sing their song, they go, "You can stick that chariot up your ass."
That's a chant. Timothy, I'm coming to you for some decorum.
I don't know. Really don't know.
All right. What about your best rugby league ones?
Lee, it's right here.
What is?
Come On England was a reworking of Come On Eileen.
Come on, England. Oh, yeah. No, that never even cut through that.
And it was a European Championship, mate. It was number 2 on the Billboard UK.
What year?
Chart.
What year?
2004.
Don't even remember it, and I know all them ones. Anywho,
I'm shocking with songs and all that sort of stuff, mate.
All right. Let's think of some rugby league ones, eh?
The Come On Aussie Come On, where they did it with Lily and
that's cricket. We're talking about rugby league now, Rosie.
Oh
my God, you're having a go at me. Rosie's been the worst behaved on this podcast, Taylor. Rugby league ones, What You Get Is What You See by Tina Turner as well. Oh, what you get is a watch. That was the first one ever she did with rugby league. Then she did Simply the Best. We've had That's My Team. That one.
Yeah.
This Is Our House, Bon Jovi.
What about That's Gold? Remember
That's Gold, yeah. What else have we had?
What about the poem? Blow your whistle, ref. Let the ball soar.
The best one ever is
Bring Back the Biff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where is Suva, Fiji? That's in Queensland.
Oh, yeah.
What an end to this podcast.
Or the Chumbawamba one.
What?
That Chumbawamba band did that one. I Get Knocked Down.
Oh, yeah. That got used a fair bit.
Yeah.
I wonder what's
what
living
about
in
that new
Rosie's
band?
beard today.
The new band. Which one, Tim?
That for this year's final season series.
Oh, that's that Western Sydney band, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just Googling it.
There's a couple of...
There he goes on Google again.
There's a couple of the Indigenous bands that have been really doing some really good works with the NRL players.
Yeah, there was a whole, because Kid Leroy was in there, the guy from up north.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kid Leroy, apparently they've already signed over for Las Vegas because he's already over there apparently.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, but he'd be a bit shitty at the moment because he's a Rabbitohs fan. He grew up in Redfern.
Yeah.
There we go. You've been watching or listening to episode 10 of the Around the Town with Taylor Prown podcast. We bid you farewell, Brendan Rose. We bid you farewell, Tim Cheeseman. We'll see you again in another 6 months. Don't break any bones.
Try not to.
Maybe do a GoFundMe page for all your ops. And Taylor, fix your attitude.
Adieu.
Take care, boys.
See you, mate.
See ya.
Yeah.